Hello students and welcome back. This is the Cannabis Education Center's Cultivation Assistant Program. I'm Sage, the professor, and we are talking about soils and hydroponics. And I left off with this assignment for you all. So please post this assignment on Moodle, your summary of the soil survey for your area. So let's move on. Cannabis can be grown in garden beds for home growers. It can be grown outdoors for production as well. This is a cannabis growing in a garden, getting a little crowded by some squash. But this is just two plants, and these two plants got extremely large in this raised bed full of compost. So the soil type that was here was just pure compost, and it was very rich in nutrients for the cannabis. Hemp cannabis is often grown in farm fields outdoors. The season of 2019 was a really big one for growing hemp for CBD. And hemp cannabis is very easy to grow. It's not too particular with soil type, although having a silty clay loam or a sandy loam is ideal. Cannabis can also be grown in containers and raised beds with potting soil or compost. It can be grown in containers indoors as well as outdoors. And cannabis can be grown in containers with hydroponic media indoors and outdoors. Hydroponic just means without soil, and there will be different types of media that you can grow in instead of soil, like mineral soil. So even though the term hydroponic has the word hydro in it, and a lot of people think it's purely water, hydroponics can involve clay beads, different types of material for the roots to hold on to. That can be important. There's also aquaponics, which is just pure water with nutrients in it. So what is in potting soil if you use potting soil? Well, it's mostly peat moss, pine bark, and perlite or vermiculite. So peat moss, it contains some organic matter, some carbon-based material, and could add to the bulk of the soil. It gives a lot of air spaces. Pine bark allows for more structure. It's a little more solid. And perlite and vermiculite, or sometimes you can see them as kind of a shiny little piece in your soil, or those little kind of styrofoam balls that are found in your soil. And all that gives a lot of moisture to your soil, not moisture retaining capacity to your soil and good drainage. Now, your soil will also likely, if you're buying potting soil, be amended with the important nutrients for growing plants. And what about hydroponics? Well, this picture shows a lot of different media for growing with hydroponics. So this isn't soil, but different things that roots can attach to, even small rocks, foam, mulch that's just pure roughage there. And we're going to talk about some of the major media for hydroponic growing. When you have hydroponics, it's without soil, so nutrients need to be added. Hydroponic fertilizers can be pumped into different container systems. So if you are working with a hydroponic system, you will have tubes taking your fertilizer, your mixed fertilizer to your plants. And some of these systems are even timed, so you can deliver your fertilizer or fertigation, sometimes it's called, fertilizer irrigation, on a regular basis. So some of these are pre-mixed hydroponic fertilizers that are the right concentration, and some require do-it-yourself mixing or diluting. There are lots of different varieties of systems out there, and so you'll want to get familiar with them. There are pump systems and there are passive systems. Pump systems use electricity. Passive systems use gravity to help the flow of nutrients get into the roots. Aquaponics uses fish to provide nutrients. And this can be a little difficult to manage on a large scale, but a lot of small scale growers and personal growers like to experiment with this. One very common hydroponic media is clay pebbles. Now, clay pebbles are just these little, about 1 centimeter diameter balls of clay, very compact. And so the benefit here is that they're lightweight, lots of air spaces between the pebbles. I said that clay can pack really densely, and it does to make the pebbles. In between, we can have lots of spaces between the pebbles. These are renewable and reusable. They're easy to find at different growing stores, and they're easy to use. The drawbacks are that they're expensive. These are very expensive. They do not hold water well, so you likely are going to be submerging in water, nutrient water, and it can cause problems with pumps because some of the clay particles can dislodge and get stuck in your pump mechanism if you're doing a pump hydroponic system. So this is what those clay pebbles look like. This is just a small setup. You can see the clay pebbles are in trays, which are on these buckets. The buckets have the nutrient water inside them, and the nutrient fertigation is being delivered by these tubes going in. Rock wool is another media that's very popular with growing. And the benefits here are it's a good water holding and has air holding capacity. Rock wool gets very wet, it's soggy, you can squeeze it out. It's available in many sizes, so you can get small rock wool cubes to start seeds, and then you can put the started seedlings in a larger cube and magnify that as your plants grow. It's very durable. It's got some drawbacks though. It's a skin and lung irritant. Rock wool is sometimes used as an insulation material in houses. And like fiberglass, it can be very abrasive to the skin. It's got those tiny little particles to it. Breathing it in is also a danger. And so if your rock wool is very dry and the little particles are suspended in the air, that can cause problems. It's not biodegradable, so it doesn't break down. Rock wool, if you start a plant in rock wool and then transplant it into soil and pull it up later, you'll see that the rock wool is still clinging to the roots. It hasn't gone anywhere. It also has a high pH. That means that it's slightly basic in the pH scale. It needs to be rinsed or buffered. So that's something to keep in mind. It is great for cloning. Very easy to clone into rock wool, where you take a trimming of your plant, dip it into a rooting hormone, and then put it in a rock wool cube. Keeping it moist, the roots do tend to expand very easily. So here are some pictures of using rock wool. This is a rock wool plant this is squash here. It's been started in rock wool and being transferred into a larger rock wool cube. So that can be done for cannabis as well, and it's been done over here in the picture on the left. These plants are growing nicely in rock wool under some grow lights. So as you grow the plants bigger in rock wool, you will need to deliver the nutrient solution to them. Sometimes pipes, or the rock wool can be in trays with a nutrient solution, and it draws up the nutrients to the plant. Coconut coir is another very popular media, and I've seen this at some of the larger cannabis growing facilities. This is biodegradable. It has good water and air capacity, so good drainage, and there are different types to choose from, different textures of the coconut coir. Drawbacks are that it can have too much salt in the product, although that is less and less of an issue as people have become aware of it. The companies making the coconut coir are being mindful about removing the salt, but it's something to keep in mind. It can also inhibit some micronutrients, which can be good or bad depending on what micronutrients are there. And very similar to soil. When you look at coconut coir, it almost looks like it's a soil type, but it's just the roughage from the outside of coconut. And coconut coir can fill bags which are handy for transporting plants around. So it's lightweight when it's dry, can be quite heavy when it's wet, but these bags can be moved around very easily. So that concludes our presentation on hydroponics and soils. Please check out our Moodle site for more information and for a forum on discussing these different types. Thank you.